Alright guys, so today we are going to be installing a set of recovery points on the front of this Passport. I was able to get a hold of PGH Passport and he dropped off his Passport to me, and we're going to get these tow hooks installed and make a video while we do it, so stay tuned. Okay guys, so this Passport already has some plastic trimming on the factory splash shield, but you will have to remove it in order to gain access to install the tow hooks. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the skid plate and pull this off, and then I will check back in with you guys. Alright guys, so we've got the front skid plate off, and I'm looking at some of the clips that will have to pop out. There's one here, and then there's another push pin here, push pin over here, and there's a Phillips here that'll have to come out, as well as another push pin that's already just hanging out. Proof that you can be a little rough on stuff, and these push pins only put up such a fight. So either way, that comes off. Another thing that I will say too, so this is a perfect segue for me, is so people always ask, should I pull off my skid plate periodically and clean it? And the answer is you don't have to, but if you don't and you spill some oil, or something happens and you run it for a long time through lots and lots and lots of mud, it will collect debris on top of it. So could be something to consider if you haven't pulled your plate in a really long time. Maybe you could pull it off just to make sure. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to check over what's going on under here, which is always a bonus too. So either way, we're gonna get this plastic shield off and we're gonna carry on. Okay guys, so now that we have the shield off completely, we have good open access to this front brace, and we have good access to that front brace as well. So we can get started. I'm going to start over here. Start by removing these two bolts. I do not know what size they are because I've been using the aftermarket bolts and not these ones. So it's going to take me a second, and I'll let you know what you need. Okay, so after a little bit of looking around here, I was able to figure out what size they were. They are a 17 millimeter from the factory, 17 here and a 17 here. They're both 17. So when the bolts we provide, it's actually going to be a 22 millimeter and a 19 millimeter. Something I haven't mentioned yet, at least in the video, is that you will want a breaker bar to get these loose. It'll make your life a lot easier. That's just going to help simplify things if you have hand tools. If not, you're going to be stacking wrenches just because you're not going to be able to get enough leverage otherwise. Little side note. Alright guys, so now that we have the bolts out, you're going to be looking for what's in your kit. And so in the kit, you're going to receive, with the stock truck, you get these two additional standoffs, as well as these. You're going to get these puck spacers. We'll call them puck spacers instead of standoffs. Standoffs, and I don't like that term, so we won't use that anymore. But either way, so you get new 10-9 grade hardware. Everything's yellow zinc coated, and the way that this is going to work is that you're going to take one of these pucks. It's going to go here, and then your additional one is going to go here. And then we have the longer hardware to accommodate for that. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting that installed. Alright guys, so this is the point in the install where you're going to have to decide if you want to try and retain the factory splash shield on the stock truck or not. If you have a stock truck and you're installing these, you need to modify the splash shield. And so this hole, as well as this hole, need to be modified in order to accept the spacers that we provide. And once those spacers, once the splash shield is modified, then what you'll do is you'll reinstall the splash shield, and then you'll actually run the puck spacers through the plastic, and that's going to give you the basically going to keep the tow hook underneath the splash shield, but allow you to retain the splash shield. In most cases, I would just go without it, but you need to make that decision at this point in the installation, because otherwise you're going to install the tow hook and then realize that you can't put the splash shield back in, and like to save you guys that step. So as I just mentioned, the tow hook is going to be below the splash shield on the stock truck, but that's only going to apply to the earlier years. So the 20 to 22 Pilot, the 19 to 20 Passport, 17 to 20 Ridgeline, because once the redesign happened, they changed the front of the bumper, and the tow hooks actually come through the bumper, so you won't be able to go underneath like we are doing on this Passport. And as we do more installations, I'm going to be able to figure out exactly which models fit in which ways, but you guys are going to have to work with me a little bit on this one because I don't have access to every single Honda that's been made. All right, so right now I just have everything just kind of hanging loose here, but you're going to want to get your M12 started first. That's going to be your 19 millimeter. Just get it started, leave it loose, and then that way you can work with getting the back settled in from there. Okay guys, so this is the tow hook installed on the Passport that I would consider as close to factory as I have available. So either way though, you're gonna have you're most likely gonna have some issues fitting the splash shield back up. I'm gonna see what I can come up with here in a second, but there's a high possibility that you will have to do some trimming on the splash shield in order for this to bolt up. Also, looking at it from this side, this Passport is already missing the little chin spoiler that sticks down about an inch or two. So either you can choose to remove it, or we're going to provide measurements to track you off of this seam over to here and give you like a little box that you can trim out inside your plastic if you would prefer. So either way, that is going to be your installation for this side. I'm going to go over to the other side and get it started as well. Something else worth noting too is that the subframe bolt, when you take it out, it might just fall out, or you might have to pull down and unthread the whole thing to get it out of your frame. Another thing that I will mention too, that you should, it's not really a team project, like, you know, you and a buddy could do it, but don't try to do one side and then have your buddy do the other side, because you are removing the front subframe bolts, and if you do that and you have both of them completely out at the same time, there's not, just for the sake of safety, I would do one at a time. Unless you're in a hurry and you're confident, then feel free to take things into your own hands. But otherwise, you may end up doing what I'm doing right now, so don't be shocked if that happens to you. So another thing to add, when you have both these bolts out, the subframe is gonna drop just a little bit, and it's gonna pull this bracket back to where you're gonna have just a little bit of misalignment. So when you put the bolt in, you actually have to leverage it a little bit to get the threads to line up, because these bolts that I'm providing do not have that. And I don't want you stripping this out because it's welded inside of the unibody is where this lag is welded. There's a threaded barrel inside the chassis. Okay, so we got this one started. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the parts for the other one and swing this guy back around here and get it all situated and in place, and then we'll get it torqued down as well. Now, like I mentioned before, the Passport, the way this lines up with the Passport bumper, you actually will just need to trim a small slot in your I don't know, little chin spoiler thing that a lot of people pull off, but ultimately it won't be a bad thing to trim a little hole in it, and we're going to work on getting the right measurements for you guys, so that way you won't have to sit and struggle with getting it lined up. You'll just know where it's going to come out through the bumper. All right guys, so here we are. We've got the recovery points installed on the front of the Passport. I'm going to go ahead and work on getting this splash shield reinstalled and see what modifications have to be done there to get it back in, and then we're going to wrap up the video. Okay guys, so I'm looking at putting the splash shield back on. If you cut this out, you might be able to just install so you cut this out, and then leave the splash shield in place, and then you could run your puck spacers essentially through the plastic, because where this ends up on the stock Passport, you could get away with just having it just below that splash shield. It would definitely compress it, but that might be an option if you just modified the back corner and the front corner. Now I already have these fully installed and torqued, and it's not a big deal that we leave the splash shield off. But if you do want your splash shield installed, I actually think that is going to be your best bet, is just to modify to the point where these 2.5-inch puck spacer and then this 1.5-inch billet part can come down through here, and then modify this one here. It feels like the best solution if you absolutely want to keep your splash guard and you have a stock truck. That'd be my recommendation. So this section of the video pertains to the 21 Plus Ridgeline and Passport front bumper. You'd find the seam where the center plastic portion of the bumper comes down, and go from there. We're going to pull the measurement towards the outside of the vehicle at 3/4 of an inch, and then right where the bumper transitions to the more flat portion, which would basically be right where the bottom edge of the tape measure is in this picture, you would mark and then come down 7/8 of an inch, and then pull your measurement inward from there 3 1/4 inches. The slot technically should be flat because that's how the tow hooks will come through the front bumper. This slot is slightly tilted on my truck just based on the way that I took the picture and made it. So either way, that is your best bet on putting in a slot in advance for the 21 Plus Ridgeline and Passport. All right guys, so for the 19 to 20 Passport, as you can see here in the picture, we've been able to get a red box kind of around where you'll be modifying the bumper. And so you'll find your lower center insert on your bumper and find the edge of it, and then you'll be measuring in 1 inch as shown in this picture, and then the slot dimensions are 3 3/4 inches wide, and then it is 1 inch tall. And so that slot is going to give you the room that you need to get the tow hook out through the front bumper, and also it will be in the chin guard just a little bit as well. So you're going to have to either modify both pieces at the same time, or as in this picture, it's been removed completely by the owner. So here's some pictures of the finished installation on the Passport, and then some of the different combinations you'll get, because if you already have a subframe drop, you'll get a different spacer than you would get if you have a factory truck. So that's just something to note. The installation process stays the same, and ultimately the parts will bolt up no matter what year you have. The difference is going to be how the plastic is formed from those years. And so right now we only have experience with the 21 Plus Ridgeline, which I know matches the Passport, as well as the 19 to 20 Passport. Now the Pilot and the 2017 to 2020 Ridgeline do have a slightly different bumper, and for those we're going to have to work to getting measurements in the future. However, I don't have those currently and won't be able to provide much guidance at this time.
Hope you guys found that video informative and helps you guys have a good starting point when putting these tow hooks on your vehicle. If you do have an early model Pilot or Ridgeline, once you get them installed, feel free to share with us what you did and how the bumper turned out, because I know getting access to those vehicles for me is going to be rather difficult. All right. Either way, have a good one. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.